Hello. In Appraised, there are reporting keeping tabs on everything through to the insights and analysis to help you understand at a strategic level what's going on within your organization. In this test account, I've set up a whole load of reports covering everything across that spectrum. But I'm going to tab through some different ones here that I've got prepared to show you how they can be used at a strategic level. So for example, this one tells you about the overall ratings that have been given across your employees over a period of time. And this in this chart has been split out by department. So we can see here, for example, that the top line here, which is HR/office services, have had a consistently high average overall rating across all the people within that department over those last few review cycles that you can see there. And what's really great about this chart is it allows you to pick out the problems or the areas of interest, the aberrations. So we might look at this line that's gone down significantly and investigate that with one of the other reports in a little more detail or refer to the data down below. Moving on, what we're looking at here brand. And what we can see along the bottom there is the names of the different managers and the average rating that they've given. So if we compare the far left and the far right, we've got Clinton here, who gives on average a rating of 3, and then Nicole gives on average a rating of 2. We might decide that, well, Clinton tends to give higher ratings than Nicole on average, and therefore we might sort of want to calibrate those ratings and suggest to Clinton that on average he needs to kind of pull his ratings down a little bit to be in line with the majority. Or it could mean that Clinton genuinely has an exceptional team and Nicole does not. So another one where you might go and do more tailored and specific analysis there. Here we are looking at the overall ratings that were given by managers according to the gender of the appraisee or the reviewee. So we've got the different ratings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can see how many of each rating was given to men, women, and everybody else. And if we look at this on a different chart like this, where I've stretched it to stack 100%, this allows us to compare things a little more easily. So we can see, for example, here that for the people who receive a score of 4, they're more likely to be male than female. If we look over here, we're looking at a chart of a critical role assessment. So in the questionnaire that was sent to managers, they were asked to suggest whether or not this person, and they did this in private, was in a critical role with no obvious successor. And if we look over here, we've got 25 yeses. So that means we've got 25 people who the manager thinks is in a critical role with no obvious successor. We can see the individual results down below, but HR might like to set a KPI, which is to reduce this to 15 over the next 6 months, perhaps by implementing some kind of succession planning or training for the people involved in those roles. If we look at this, I've got another chart which is split out by gender, and these are responses to the question, should this person be considered as top talent, go into our top talent pool? And again, we can see that, well, actually in this case, we can see that for those people who were marked as yes, they should be going to a top talent pool, they're more likely to be women. Here we're looking at objectives and in particular strategic goals. So this organization has 5 strategic goals: develop our teams, efficiency, drive, and so on. And the individuals within the organization have been tasked at the beginning of the year with setting objectives for themselves that contribute to one of those 5 strategic goals. As they were setting them up, they had to choose a strategic goal that they'd be contributing to. And this gives us an overall idea of the status of those different individual goals. And if we look at this one, for example, strategic goal is improve customer satisfaction to 95%. And this chart is telling us that there are 48 individual objectives that are at risk. 48 individual objectives that contribute to improving customer satisfaction are at risk. So you might decide or deduce that this overall company strategic goal of improving customer satisfaction is unlikely to be met unless you intervene. This chart simply shows you how many direct reports each manager has. And it's just a simple way of keeping an eye on manager capacity. And we can see here that Jeanette has 15 direct reports, and we might consider that that might be too many, or we might want to go and investigate that team and see how that team is performing using the other appraised tools to see if Jeanette is managing to successfully manage those people. Here we're looking at the 9-box grid. So this is where people have been placed by their manager on a 9-box grid. We might take this through to a calibration stage where we get the SLT round a board table and we move people around based on the discussions that we have. But I want to show you another view of this, and I'm going to do this by expanding the screen and flipping over here. And I'm using a tool called Split Tabs. If we look at this, what this tells you is on the left, we've got the 9-box grid position for women, and on the right, the same for men. And just by having a little scan, I can see that we have generally got a higher proportion of men down in the bottom left-hand corner. In fact, we've got 10% here. Again, this might feed into calibration discussion. So if you are moving people around on the 9-box grid, you might want to take a look at this split view to make sure that you are calibrating, bearing in mind other characteristics of people, such as their gender, their role, their position, how long they've been with the organization, and so on. So that's a little overview of some of the strategic analysis you can do with Appraised. I hope it's been helpful.